Okay, we are beginning the fifth parak of Yoma in a new location. Daf Mem Zayin Amar Aleph in Yoma, parak Haitziules. Let's just get what we were doing. The Kohen Gadol shechted his par and makabel l'dam, and he gave it to a kohen who's stirring it outside the heichal. And then he went onto the mizbeach and he got a shovel and he take off some coals and he put that down, and that's getting ready for him to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says they took out for him as a kaf, a spoon, ves hamachta, and a shovel. Chav and Mali Chavnav, he put in his, he brought up a palmful of keteris. V'nasal techa kaf, and he put it into the spoon. Hagadol afi gadol, gadloi v'katol afi katnoi. Depending on the size of the kohen gadol, that's how much keteris you had. And that was its measurement. The Gemara will explain what that's referring to. He took the shovel in his right hand, and the spoon in his left hand. So like the Gemara, what do you mean? They took out from the base HaKelim? Rashi says, Melishkas HaKelim, from where the office of the Kelim is, they took out a machta? We already learned we already learned that he used the shovel already to get the coals off of the mizbeach. So what are you talking about? Says the Gemara, the two shovels. That was talking about the shovel used to get the gechalim, to get the coals off of the mizbeach. Here we're talking about the shovel that was used to get the keteris. What does that mean? The tiny, like we're going to Brisa. The Brisa will explain. They brought out to the Kohen Gadol from the Lishkas HaKelim a empty spoon, and an overflowing shovel with keteris in it. Melishkas Beis Avtinas. Then Chafan Malei Chafna v'Naisan Teich Kaf Hagadol Lefi v'Katan Lefi Katnai Dekachai Samidasai. So then the Kohen Gadol would take his hands and he would go into this machta, the shovel that was filled with keteris. He'd get a palmful and he'd take that and put it into the into the spoon. How you doing? Good? Okay, these are our neighbors from upstairs, the Hershkowitzes, right? Okay, what's your first name? Fegi? Yeah. Okay, Fegi Hershkowitz, live on Amad Yomi. Here we go. Zog the Gemara weiter. Kaf b'Yom Kippurim lamali. What do we need this spoon for on Yom Kippur? Malay chavnav v'hevi amar chmara. The Torah just says to fill up your palms, malay chavnav, and then bring it into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Nobody ever mentioned the spoon. Says the Gemara, Mishum delay efsher. Well, we have no other choice. Mishum delay efsher. Amazing zachir. There was no other choice but to use a kaf. Even though the Torah doesn't say to use a kaf, we have to use a spoon. Why? Because what's the alternative? Says the Gemara, the Hechinavit. What do you want to do? Nail, you want to bring in the shovel with the gachalim, and then bring in the keteris. V'hodav v'nail haba achas. Amar Chmana Torah just says to go in once. You can't go in twice. V'lo ishtei havais, and not twice. Nishkalei l'keteris b'chayfnav. Okay, so you know what? Maybe take the keteris in your palms. V'nachte l'machte Allah, and put the shovel on top of your hand. We'll come back to that in a minute. The leil, and then go in. So back to Gemara, Kimati Hasam. Well, when you get there, what are you going to do? Hey, beloved, how exactly are you going to get? Again, the Kohen Gadol is walking in. His hands are filled with keteris. He has a machta, a shovel with coals on it. Now the achreinim are trying to figure out what does that mean. How do you take a burning hot metal? It was made out of gold, and it has coals on it. So this thing's burning hot. How are you going to put that on your hands? So somebody offers maybe there was maybe it was lined. with very thick leather on the bottom of the pan, so that would not, the heat wouldn't go through. The heat wouldn't go through. That's one option. So, Kitzer, you're coming into the Kodesh. Yomar's like, so what do you want to have over here? He's going to have that he's walking in, he's got his hands filled with keteris, he's got a shovel on top, and he's walking like this. Okay, great. Now what are you going to do? How are you going to put it down? So the Gemara says, so kimate hasam. So when he gets there, what are you going to do? So you want him to take the shovel by the handle, by his teeth, and then put it down on the ground, and then put the keteris on top of that? That doesn't sound very menschlich. To take the shovel by his teeth, says the Gemara, you would never do that in front of a human king. Certainly, that's not the way you're going to do something in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Therefore, it is impossible. You have no other eitzah. Since it's not possible, and we have a precedent for a kaf of keteris, that is what the Nesiim brought. The keteris was in a kaf mali keteris. So therefore, since we have a precedent for that, that is what we are going to understand the Torah means when it says vehevi, when the Kohen Gadol is bringing it in, since he can only go in once, and there's no other way for him to bring it in that would be natural, so must be he brings it in with a shovel. Now, Frek Taisus, tamely, I don't get it. The Gemara says that, we'll see the Gemara later on, the Gemara has such a havamina that you were doing something with your teeth, so why don't we have the same kasha? So Taisus says, there you're only moving it a little bit with your teeth, but you're not like taking it down. Okay. Takes it a little bit further down, says, V'aval temuli, li'avid machta beis yad aruch, de'balavach yarmin le'el, de'b'yayim ha'kipurim yoda arucha, v'yasel beis yad arucha, shagi al beis ha'shechi, v'yitvei bebeis ha'shechi, v'roish ha'machta, tehe munachas al yadav, ayal zroya ha'smalai, v'chimati lefnim, Yishal she'adav ada ritzvah, v'yishma v'yadav v'nachas. So Taisus has a patent. If you have a very long handle, and he's holding it under his arm, so and he's balancing it on his hands, so then it's easier because he can like sort of slide out his hands and let the machta slowly go down and then put it on top. So he says he doesn't think that would work. Could be that some of the coals will fall down, some of the keteris might fall. It's not the way you act, and therefore that is not a viable alternative. Okay, Natal es hamachta biyamin v'esakaf b'smol. You're taking the shovel with the coals in your right hand, and you are taking the keteris in your left hand. Let me ask you, what's like which is the ikar and which is the tafel here? What's the main thing and what's the secondary nikuda? So the main thing, obviously, is the keteris. That's the avodas hayom. So you're telling me you're taking the keteris in your left hand and the shovel with the coals in your right hand? What kind of sense does that make? Says the Gemara, Yesiva ba'ara v'giyura b'shmei shmaya. The citizen is on the land, and the oireach, the guest, is up in heaven. It doesn't make sense. Meaning, I'm not exactly sure what the sushtel there is, but the kasha, the expression is coming to say, how could you make the ifkar tafel by taking the keteris in your left hand? Says the Gemara, zumeruba v'zumuetes. You have a lot of the three kavin here of gachelas, of coals. That was presumably much heavier than the keteris. So therefore, you take and your right hand is presumably to be stronger. So therefore, the right hand has the heavier amount and the left hand has the less heavy. Says the Gemara, and even there be equal. Look at Meister Rabbi Shmuel ben Kimchas, like Rabbi Shmuel ben Kimchas, like we'll see later on, that he was able to have even 4 kav of keteris. He was a very big man, big Kohen Gadol. Still, Amra love, you're still going to take it in your right hand because that's the way it's done. Since that's the way it was established to do it, so that's the way it's done. Now, The Gemara says, we're going to talk now a little agadata about this Rabbi Yishmael ben Kimchas. Says the Gemara, Amr alav Rabbi Yishmael ben Kimchas, shehaya chayfen arbas kavin b'moy chafnod. They say about him that he was able to get 4 kav of keteris in his palms, and that's a large amount. Let's make a quick cheshbon. How much is 4 kavin? What's a good way to make the cheshbon? Well, let's do like this. A revius, right? Let's say 1 point is like 3 ounces. A revius is 3 ounces. That's a revius of a lug, and there are 4 lug in a kav. So that means is there 4 or 6 lug in a kav? I think 4 lug in a kav. If there are 4 lug in a kav, so that would be 16 reviusim. So that would be about 48 ounces. If that was liquid. Okay. In any event, he took 4 kav in his hand. Now, he says like this, you want to know how I was zeicha to be such a big person, Rabbi Yishmael ben Kimcha says? So, he says he would take, he went when he would be and he would say, Kol hanashim zered zardu, v'zered ima ol lagag. All the women, bekitzer, meaning he gave credit to his mother. His mother her zered was ol lagag. It was over the roof. Now, what's zered? So the Gemara has 2 pshatim on what zered is. The first pshat was a healthy breakfast. Ika da amri ba'arsan. K'davar Rabbi Yonasan, the Amar Rabbi Yonasan, Amar Rabbi Chiel, arsan yafal l'chayla. So arsan was like a type of a porridge, and that's what they would feed to a chayla, someone who was sick. And the assumption is a pregnant woman is sick, and if she had a good arsan, so that would be good for her and her kid. So that is what Rabbi Yishmael ben Kimcha said. Oh, my mother had such her arsan, her porridge was olagag, went over the roof. It was so good, and that's why I was so healthy, and that's why I'm such a big Kohen Gadol who had huge hands. One shot. Second shot, Ikada Amri b'shivcha zera. It's talking about zera. It's talking about sperm. Look to Rabavo. The Rabavo Rami, he has the steer in 2 psukim. It says, the Shira of David HaMelech is written in 2 places. It's written in Tehillim and it's written in Shmuel. So in one of them it says that Hazreini Chayil HaMilchama. Uksiv, the other pasuk says Ta'azreini Chayil with an aleph l'Milchama. So what is this word? In what way is he prepared for war? So Amar David Nakadosh Baruch Hu Rebbeinu Shleilim Zari Sani Vizar Zatani. So he's saying like this: I'm both. I have my mother. I mean, when talking about Shech Vazara, she's saying that somehow his mother was able to find the best tipa zera to become impregnated with, to be mavar, the best tipa zera to become pregnant with, and that's why I am so strong. And at the same time, she had a good porridge, so he was v'tazreini, and she was very strong, and he was Aris. Okay. Amar Lav Rabbi. They said about Rabbi Yishmael ben Kimchas. Pamachas, there was one time, Siper Dvarim Imarav Yechad B'Shuk. In middle of the Avodah, he took a break, and I guess there was some important matter he needed to speak with an Arab in the Shuk. The Nitzat Sinair Mipiv, and some of the spit from that Arab went onto his clothing. Now the halacha is that Chazal were geyser on all of the fluids of a guy to be like a zav, and therefore it's Matam B'Masa. So now that there is rake on his begadim, he becomes tamei, and now he needs to go to the mikvah and he needs harav shemesh. He can't do the avodah anymore. So guess what happened? V'nichnas Yeshevev Achiv. So his brother Yeshevev came in instead of him. V'shimish tachtav. V'rasan iman shnei kehanim gadol b'yachad. His mother got to see 2 of her sons serve as kohen gadol on the same day. And guess what? It didn't just happen once. V'shuv amar olav Rabbi Shmuel ben Kibbachas. Pamachas yatzav v'siper im hegmain echad b'shuk. Again on Yom Kippur, middle of the Avodah, he went out to speak to the hegmain. Hegmain was the local governor. In the shuk, v'nitza tziner mipiv, and again, some spit landed on him. Al begada, v'nichnas Yosef achiv v'shim yishachlev, and then his brother Yosef came to serve in place of him. They didn't have the same one serve. V'rasa iman shnei kahanim v'delam b'yam echad, and his mother got to see two sons serve as a Kohen Gadol on the same day. Turn Rabbanan, the Gemara brings a brisa. Shiva banim hayula lekimchas. Kimchas had 7 sons. The Kulan Shimshu B'Kuna Gedela, and all of them served as a Kohen Gadol. Amar Allah Chacham, the Chacham asked her, Ma'asita shezachita kach. Ma'asit, what did you do that you were zeicha to have 7 sons to serve as a Kohen Gadol? Again, that was all while the other ones were alive, and the Lachar was because of the one who was serving became Tameh and went out, and he got Tameh, and then the other brother did the Avodah. So she got to see 7 of her sons be Kohen Gadol, serve as the Kohen Gadol. So what schus did you have? Amar lahem yama loy ra'u keres beisi kali sari. She said, from my whole life, the beams of my house never saw the braids of my hair. Even the braids of my hair. I mean, she was saying she was at Snura. Rashi brings Yerushalmi. Rishi B'Talmud Yerushalmi, Kol Kvuda Bas Melech Pnima. Mishpat Zav Levusha. The pasuk says the honor of a princess is inside, and that's greater than the gold that she wears. So the Yerushalmi Dashins, Isha Tznuah, Ru'uya Lotzes Mimena Kohen Gadol. A Isha Tznuah is fitting for her to have a Kohen Gadol come from her. Halevish Mishpat Zav, that will wear the Mishpat Zav. Beautiful. Now, Amar Allah, they said to her, Harbe Asukin, there are many women who have such a level of tznius like you. And they didn't help them that they should have sons serve as Kohen Gadol. So Rabbi Berkowitz would say, Harbe Asu. Many people did it, but it's not just a matter of doing. It's got to be with the sensitivity, with the, it's got to be an expression of something more internal. Okay. Tan Rabbanan, the Rabbanan Lamdan Brayso. Okay, let's get back to the Keteris. The pasuk says Bekumtzai Shloya. Now, this is talking about the kaimitz. There was a kaimitz of mincha, and there was a kaimitz of that was used when you took a kmitza for mincha. That was bekaimitz. So Bekumtzai Shloyase mida lekaimitz. It says that when the kohen took a kaimitz from a mincha, so that there was no measurement. You couldn't figure out how much a kaimitz was and then use a measuring cup to do that. You actually had to do the kaimitz with your hand. Kaimitz is a fistful. Bekumtzai shlayasa mida lekaimitz. Say by the Gemara. Ma'ushiyasa mida lechafna. What about can a kohen gadol make a measurement for the palmful that he takes when he is using the keteris, for the keteris? Can he make a measurement for that? So he says, Hasam hu dichsev bikumtzai, with his kaimitz, with his fist. It doesn't say with his hand full. It just says molei chafnav. Ela molei chafnav keteris sam daka. So that wouldn't be an issue of making maybe you could make a measuring cup for it. Or perhaps maybe you should make a gzeir shava male from kaimitz, and just like the kaimitz needed to be with his actual fist, so does the malei chafnav. Toshima. So let's bring a raya from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says v'kach hoisa midasa. My love, Shemratza Lasis Mida Acheres Oisa. Doesn't it mean the Kach Himaidasa that and so is its measurement? It means if you want to make a measuring tool to fit your Malachaf, now that would be fine. I says no, that could mean that, but it's not Muchach. It could mean something else. Hachikamer the Kacha Yechizer v'Chayfna Lifnim. The Kacha Yamidasa means that he would go and now that he has this this kaf. Right? He took a malichaf note. He put it into a spoon. Now in the Kodesh HaKodashim, he has to scoop it out again and put it onto the keteris. Says the Gemara, if that's true, if that's what the Mishnah means, then Shmamina chayfen v'chayfen v'chayfen. Then we can learn from here that that's what you actually have to do. Says the Gemara, no, not a raya, because El Mashim Ratzalas is Mida. Oh, so maybe the Mishnah means that if you want to make a measuring cup, you could. Inami, alternatively, Shlo Yechzer v'Shlo Yisr. It's telling you the kachi midasa that it can't be more, it can't be less when you go and you take out from it. Okay, one more Gemara for today. Malay kumtzay, yochel mevuratz. You may think it's allowed to be overflowing when you take a fistful of a regular mincha. Okay, say a flour mincha comes in, the kohen takes a kaimitz. So I can think even if it's a kaimitz and he takes a fistful, so he's got it can be coming out on either side. So maybe that's okay. It's got to be in his fist. If it just said bekumtzai, maybe he could take a like that with his fingers, a fingerful. Says the Gemara, Tamalaymer malay kumtzai. Kidem kamtzi inchi like people do. Okay, so what is it? How do you do it? How do you take a kaimitz? Says the Gemara, chayfa shalish etzbaisav al pizzas yadei. You fold 3 fingers over your palm. Al pizzas yadei on his palm. The kaimitz. Okay. And what about if you have a machavas umachashas? Now, certain minchas came raw. It was seilus with some shemen, flour and oil. Others came already fried, already baked, and then they had to be broken into pieces. So Umar says, "Moichik begoidlei melamala ube'emtzboi kitana melmata." So then you could have pieces sticking out. So you'd have to rub it on the top of your thumb and on the bottom with your pinky. Now you had to do that in a way that you don't empty out your pit, and if you're breaking off pieces, you still have to keep your fist full. Whoa. Vizui avoida kasha shel mikdash, and this is the hardest avoida in the mikdash. Back to Gemara, zuhi v'lay sulay. That's it. This is the hardest one. Va'ika malika. You have malika, which was basically doing shchita with your thumbnail. Va'ika chafina, and then the chafina, which we're going to do in the Kodesh HaKodashim. We'll see how that's done. Elazu me avodas kasha shel mikdash. This is from the hardest avodas in the mikdash. Okay, it's been wonderful getting back into this. I'll just give you a little turnaround. You can see where we're recording over here. And that was the stand I was using to record. I got a great view this way. You just couldn't see it. Pretty nice, right? So we're in a different bungalow now. There's some of the houses here. And this is us. We're in the downstairs of a house for the second half. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the 5th parak.